Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name's Joe Kuzma, and as you may have noticed, this is no mistake. There's no error. Do not adjust your screens if you happen to be watching rather than listening. That is a one, Mr. Brian E. Roach, sitting right over to my side here. Well, virtually anyways, but Brian, hey man, it's good to do not only early in the week, man. We're hanging and banging. We got all kinds of not all kinds of stuff to talk about, but enough that we're fired up that we tabled our previously planned programming. And let's face it, when did we ever plan anything? But it's good to be back. It's good to have you here and good to be with you.
Yeah, and don't as I said in the comments, don't make Joe blush. Well, at least he's got a hat on right now.
Yeah,
and,
I'm wearing it Ben style too. Well, at least old Ben style,
Old Ben style hat.
Had to go with the backwards cap. Back in the day, we had the starter emblem here. They got that whole thing started there. That was the status symbol, man. And the starter coats, the $100 jackets. Everyone was getting robbed for those back in the day. But no, it's good, man. Me and you. I mean, a lot of people were excited.
You and me.
We should get a tandem bicycle.
No matter how we toss the dice, you have to be. I can't remember. I'm probably doing it.
I don't know. That was pretty good, though. Is that the Turtles that sings that? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might be, actually.
I think it might be, too. I'm going to have to look that up. But
people are going to yell at us. They're going to yell at us.
It is. It's the Turtles.
We're wasting time. They're going to
We are wasting time. But you know what, my friend? It is nothing better. Us two together. I'd mentioned Dynamic Duo. I had mentioned peanut butter and jelly. I had mentioned pineapple on pizza. All these things that go completely together.
That does not go together.
Harmony.
It's out. Ruined the whole thing. I got to storm out of here now.
Hey, you didn't let me finish. And Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers. So what else could be better there? Come on, man. The pineapple on pizza. See,
it's out.
I got to get this up front. Oh, speaking of quarterbacks, let's get this out front first before I get the other thing. I mentioned this at the tail end of the show. The 5% of everyone that actually follows through to the end or maybe doesn't listen to this on hyperspeed or something or fast forward and skip to what they want. FOCO, once again, the Terry Bradshaw limited edition bobblehead. Go check that out. That's on pre-order. It was posted on our various social media outlets that we're on, primarily Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Sometimes Instagram. I don't always have picture type stuff, images to post out there. But anyways, yeah, check that out. It was like 212 items that it's or numbered that it's limited to. That might even be sold out already. It's a pre-order. And get your little Terry Bradshaw bing bing bobblehead. And the reason I mentioned the social media stuff is, I was thinking just earlier today, it was great to get some of the comments, read some of the comments on YouTube. Not everybody's on our YouTube channel that may listen to this. So if you have a chance, throw us some comments wherever you might be paying attention. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, because what I'd like to start doing is maybe taking like an informal poll or something like that, and then presenting it when we come back again, for the next episode. So,
sure.
But overall, pretty good comments. People think that you're crazy with the mock drafting, and other people think that the Steelers are crazy. And we were talking about this just 2 days ago. Well, Mark Madden isn't happy because he is made to look like a fool, among other. I don't even want to call them reporters. They're like, it's more the blogger types. And I know we're not much above being bloggers or, to an extent too. That's how we basically got into this, was blogging. But, I don't rip every little headline or rumor and then try and clickbait people into just getting some clicks for some, the peanuts that Google will pay you for seeing an ad on that page. And there's a few, probably 4 of them if I were to name them, but I'll protect the guilty here, that do this, and some of them are owned by corporate overlords, so they are a slave to quotas and content and whatnot, of which we're a slave to none here. So We kind of do what we kind of operate to the beat of our own drum, and it's never been our thing to be like, oh, well, Aditi Kikawala said that people in Pittsburgh, a source says that they're far apart, Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers, and he won't be back. And so people took that ball and completely ran with it on Monday, and that's what we were kind of making fun of. And I mean, that the one or two liner that she had, they made a mountain out of a molehill, as my mom would say. And just think about that. I guess a molehill is really tiny, because it's a mole. So,
yeah, I got a whole bunch of them out in my front yard.
Oh man, you play whack-a-mole then out there?
I would if I could catch them. They're too fast.
Oh, well, maybe someday. That's what they talk about, like hog tying or going after and getting the chicken or whatever else. So, anyways, we won't want to get too far off topic here. Yes. But basically, going off the reservation, a lot of these folks or these sites or whatever you want to call them, people on Twitter and stuff, they stoked the fires, they fanned the flames, and we were telling everyone to pump the brakes. We don't even know a salary cap number yet. Why are they going to be even talking? There's not a whole lot to talk about just yet. Ben had already said he would play for no pay. It's not like we didn't hear anything where the Steelers officially said they were going to shove someone out the door. Now, you and I, we've seen some tidbits. We know where this may have gone and whether or not it was good info or bad info. The people at the top, like an Ian Rappaport or a Didi or people like that, they are the slaves to the content. So they got to have things to talk about, and they throw it out there. And then everyone else is just kind of like, they're taking their crumbs off the table. And we're like, hey, pump the brakes on that. Why are you going to jump to these type of conclusions? Because look what happened the very next morning. Jerry Dulac, the first report that Art Rooney had met with Ben or Ben's agent, and, they want him back. And he wants to come back. And then all of a sudden that was a whole other tizzy, and that's what we're going to talk about today as far as the Steelers and the quarterback situation, at least for 2021. Now, we discussed this. I know me and Noah discussed this. There's between how far back do we got to go now? 2011 and 2016, were those the numbers of all of the quarterbacks taken in the first round that are no longer with their original team? You still have the class that had, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. In fact, one of those guys, Josh Rosen, is he even in the NFL still? I don't even know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about things and stuff with not working out with first-round picks, and it seems like every man's trash is another man's treasure, and there's all kind of crazy stuff. So we're going to throw some names out. We're going to look back at some other names, but I'm looking at 2021 right now, and I'm looking at the roster. It's like, number one, we've mentioned this once before, right off the top. The dead cap for Ben is what, 22 million?
So,
it's like 41 overall or whatever is the number, but would you rather have Ben back? Paying whatever gets structured here. And there was actually, let me get this, was this, I think it was a Dan Graziano. Yes. He says that Ben's contract's pretty simple to work out. Four-year extension, which is what we were talking about. Extension. You can't restructure. He's going to get an extension. Don't get mad about it. That's what's got to be done, because he's saying you could do a contract void after 2021, convert. Now you get into some funny business here. $17.925 million of his 2021 compensation to a signing bonus, and that saves $14.34 million on the 2021 cap and puts a $14.34 million dead money charge on the 2022 cap, which, when you're thinking about it, that's not too shabby. I understand. They're always going to be running dead cap. There's going to be players you're paying that to move on.
Can't avoid it. You can't avoid it.
No, and the same thing is somebody that doesn't work out. Cortez Allen, Lamar Woodley, something like that, or guys that, Troy Polamalu, guys that retire, Heath Miller, guys that are still on the books there, maybe a year or two after their playing days are done on the field. There's still accounting and funny business with that with this. But anyways, 14.34 mil. He's saying that's the maximum possible savings without a pay cut. Mm-hmm. So there's still a chance maybe they do but maybe a pay cut. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. So, it's all this is speculative, by the way. But with the exception of the Steelers put out a full statement. Art Rooney II said, Ben Roethlisberger and I met yesterday morning. We had a productive meeting. We were able to discuss a lot of things that relate to where we are, where we want to go. Ben assured me that he is committed to coming back to help us win, and I told Ben that we would like to have him back to help us win a championship. We both understand that the next step is to work out Ben's contract situation. I don't think there's any mystery to this. Going back to even last year, that this was likely going to be the case. And I'm trying to put all this together, Brian. It's more or less, would you rather have Ben back eating the money or whatever, eating $22 million, or being able to effectively spread this out, free up that, 14.34 is what they could save. So they would only save maybe another 5 and still eat the 22 cap if he ended up going. I would much rather have Ben back in this case.
Yeah, as I've been saying all along, if my choice is not to have Ben back or have Ben back, forget everything else. If that's just the choice, period, then I'd rather have Ben back than not. And I will tell you that all the people out there who are saying it delays the team a year, shut up. It doesn't. Just go stick your head in the sand and shut up because you're annoying. And I'm not talking to our fan base at this point because it's not really the fan base.
Our audience, at least here.
Yeah. Well, it's not even just the fan. These are other media types.
Oh yeah.
Let's just put it that way. Media types. And it's not delaying them a year because they're not going to get one of the top quarterbacks, and we've already discussed Doughboy Jones, so forget it. All right,
Mac.
Yeah, a little Mac.
Mention that too. It's just a matter of pick 24. I don't think they have the ammunition to move up far enough to be in play, or somebody else has to fall. And I don't really like the class to begin with.
I'm not in love with the class.
No.
I mean, there's a couple guys in here that are intriguing, and if you could have gotten them, in the right situation, yeah, I think you could. You never know what you can have with a couple of the guys that are in the class, but they're going to go high. They're going to go within the top 10 or 12 picks, and I tweeted about this, and I was so annoyed, and I maintain my annoyance at CBS over this. There's some idiot on CBS. Decides to have the Steelers trade up from 24 to get Doughboy Jones. Trade up? He'll be there in the second round. Get out of my face with that nonsense. I'm sorry. It's just, okay. Anyway, I'm glad Ben's coming back. I'm happy about it. I think they'll work out a deal that makes sense. And it will work for the Steelers as well as for Ben. And for those who say there's no way that they can win a championship with Ben Roethlisberger. Yes, there is. There absolutely is. To say no way, you're forgetting, who the Ravens won a championship with. Jake Delhomme. That's not who the Ravens won with, but the Jake Delhomme thing that we talked. Not that they won a championship with Jake Delhomme, but still, they got to the Super Bowl with Jake Delhomme. You forget some of the detritus of quarterbacks who've actually made it to the big game. The Steelers are stacked. They have plenty in other areas, and with the right, the right draft, there's no reason they can't win a Super Bowl with Ben Roethlisberger in the final year. I'm not saying it's likely, okay? There's a lot of talented teams right now. But to say, no, it's impossible, you're just...
Well, let's talk about the alternative before we get into what's there, at least for this season. Everybody wants the next guy in place and moving forward, and we kind of touched on this, that when this happened with the Packers, Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers, the year after Ben was drafted, actually, top two guys, and Rodgers slides, and it was a shocker that the Green Bay Packers took him because they had Brett Favre, who continued to play for like 3 seasons until Aaron Rodgers comes in, and then he didn't have necessarily a good start in the league. And then, of course, we know how Aaron Rodgers has played out, and I still think for the most part he's somewhat overrated to a degree. He doesn't throw interceptions. That's one thing.
How do you make an R? How do you make an R? I can't.
I don't know.
R. I can't make an R.
Overrated.
Overrated.
You look like the gorilla guy on The Simpsons. It's but no. Let's think about this. It's like you want the other guy in place, but what's it going to cost you if Ben comes back? Now you need these draft picks. Everybody's in love with taking. Again, I'm seeing Harris stuff, even from one of our semi-contributors and friends out there on Twitter. I'll protect him, and not mention him by name here, but I gave him kind of the stink eye. Najee Harris, pretty much, or
giving you the stink eye too.
Like,
giving it to him right now. Stink eye.
They do need help in other spots. Giving away all these draft picks just to have a guy that, if you don't have Ben, he's going to have to come in as a rookie and play, which that doesn't always turn out so well. Or you're going to roll with Mason Rudolph, perhaps even Dwayne Haskins playing. Who knows? That may not work out so well. And then maybe the other guy does come in a year or two and still doesn't turn out so well anyway. Josh Rosen or any of the other guys, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, all these other guys. Yeah, I get it. Carson Wentz has a ring. He got hurt. And then Nick Foles was absolutely, this was another argument here. Oh, well, the Eagles won with Nick Foles. Yeah, they were already pretty much locked into a playoff spot. He was awful at the end of that regular season. They thought this team was going to be done, stick a fork in them, and they had some luck on their side and things that worked out in their favor in the postseason. No more or less, really, than what happened with the Buccaneers right now. They don't get in if there isn't that terrible pass interference call at the end of that game, too. And they end up Super Bowl champions, and no one will ever remember the other things that played into that. So Nick Foles, it's like, come on, okay. And then Carson Wentz, we don't know if that's the coaching. We don't know, that whole program franchise is blown up now. Let's start it back over. And they just won a Super Bowl 3-4 years ago. So when I always hear about like, blow it up, it'll be better. They were at the pinnacle here, and now they're back in the basement or whatever. That awful division this year. Washington gets in with a losing record. And if they weren't playing with Taylor Heineke or whatever his name is, Meineke, first real start. I mean, he still looked okay. I mean, guys are going to look okay too. Then you get film on him and he might be absolute, dog, doo-doo. After 6-8 games, they figure him out, like maybe Duck Hodges. And Duck Hodges even, he wins against the Chargers because Devin Bush makes an amazing play or two right in the first quarter. The defense really steps up, and the Chargers are playing out of a hole. There's all kinds of things like that. So I just look at it that if you're going to ship all of these draft picks off, and you're saying you need help at O-line, and you don't have cap space to bring in free agents or high-level free, what's going to change that's any different? The quarterback, you can't take a shotgun approach to that. What it might actually entail is that maybe 2022, the Steelers, maybe Ben isn't there anymore. Maybe they're just not that good, and then they're picking in the teens or perhaps even the top 10, and then they're within striking. It took to get Ben. What was it? Was it a 6-10 season right before? How did they get into that spot?
Man,
let me look.
It was worse than that.
Maybe it was. Let's see. Ben was what? 6-10. 6-10.
2003. Yeah.
2003. 6-10. Which, when you think about it, there's teams that do far worse than that. Obviously, So that's just that might be what it takes in order to get in that type of position.
Usually, it is
to draft those type of players, and the reason the Steelers are never at the top of the draft. That's why they're not going to take a stab. Think about it this way. If they took a stab on a guy in the first round like everybody wanted to a little bit ago, Paxton Lynch or whatever you want to throw some of these names around that aren't in the league anymore even. By the way, he is not on the Steelers roster. Like, people keep bringing up him. Josh Dobbs is going to be a free agent. Quit. Why don't we bring up Zach Mettenberger? Remember all the hoopla over getting him signed and everything? And,
you can't groom a guy who's not even on your team.
That's pretty much where I'm at. But anyways, it's like these teams that get for the Bengals to get Joe Burrow, they have been mediocre for many years in order to get the top overall pick. How do you think some of these teams are in the position that they're in order to try the Jets or something? And then they still look at what the Rams or the Eagles gave up for Goff and Wentz, and maybe how that hasn't even worked out. It's there's a lot at play here. I would much rather, coming back to my original thought, as I'm long-winded, Brian, I would much rather harvest those picks and put pieces around whoever ends up being the eventual guy rather than spend it all right now, have nobody around, and have that guy sit on the bench maybe for a year or two, and then you've mortgaged your future, and you don't have anything around him to play around with, i.e. the Houston Texans.
Yeah, look, the idea that this is the draft for them to go after quarterback is short-sighted. It's shiny toy syndrome. It's I need something new to talk about syndrome. It's whatever. Do the homework, do the work, and talk about what is really going on. But they're not gonna move up and draft a quarterback. They're not gonna draft a quarterback at 24. They're unlikely to draft a running back at 24. So you just need to stop with this this nonsense.
Hoopla.
And it's the hoopla. I get frustrated with the mock draft and the Twitter draft verse and all those groups. I get frustrated with them every year because it's the same every year. And it's going to be, I was talking to somebody on Twitter today and I said, it's going to be even worse this year, as we talked about before, with no combine, no real good way to track the intents of every team. And so all these prognosticators are just going to go, well, I think the team need is this. Therefore, no matter what, that's what they're going to do. You can't look at the way the Steelers draft and post it that way and say, well, they need a running back, so therefore they're going to draft a running back at 24. Or they need a quarterback, therefore they're going to draft a quarterback at 24. They look at value first at the place that they're at. Forget position, forget need. The first thing is, what's the best value? If the best value is going to be a linebacker that's going to sit behind Devin Bush, well, maybe they move on. Or an outside rush guy who's going to sit behind TJ Watt, maybe they look at the next step. But they don't look at need first. They never have. They're going to look at what's the best value, where they are. And then if it meshes with need, great. But Mac Jones is not going to mesh with need at any point in this draft. It's just ludicrous. Look, Ben is an older quarterback at this point. There's no question about it. But he's not, people are complaining about his arm and all this. He's not noodle arm Peyton Manning. He's still got a decent arm. Is he going to be perfect? No. Is he going to be the Ben of his, younger Ben? No. But he's going to be better than Peyton Manning was that year. I'll tell you that much. And he won a Super Bowl. Why? Because he had defense and he had a running game. So, again, I'll restate what we've been stating over and over again. Rebuild the offensive line. And I keep forgetting about my boy Kevin Dotson. I do, and I want to smack myself in the head for forgetting about him because I love the guy. But you start with Dotson and DeCastro. You got to find a center, and you probably got to find at least one tackle. You find those two things in the draft. Find yourself a running back that's adequate. Doesn't have to be top of the line. And somebody who I don't remember who it was. You can look. Somebody told us, oh no, there's going to be 4 running backs going the top in the first round. I'm sorry. I don't mean to criticize you. It has not happened in so long that I cannot. If that were to happen, every NFL talking head would explode. Their heads would explode. There's not going to be 4 running backs taken in the first round. And
I mean, at least if they all go before 24, that would be I'd have fireworks blowing off in my head as to what other positions would be available at pick 24.
Gosh. If you got 4 running backs going and then at least 4 or 5 quarterbacks going, that's 9 picks ahead of you at 24. I mean, all of a sudden, whoa, what could be left? Anything we want.
Maybe a quarterback.
Yeah, not if 5 of them are gone.
Yeah, well, you never know. What 3-4 quarterbacks and 4 running backs? Hey, like you said, that would be.
I would love it if 4 running backs went before we picked. Yay, go team.
That's how you end up getting a guy like David DeCastro or Bud Dupree. Yeah. Because everything else gets overvalued or teams reach on need or want, and I think that's the biggest thing.
Teams do it. They do it. They will do it, and it's going to be worse this year. I'm telling you, it's going to be worse this year. People are going to get overdrafted this year because they don't have the adequate scouting. They don't have every NFL team does a great job of scouting, all right? But some teams are definitely better than others, and some teams are better at handling it in this situation than others because they just have a built up infrastructure, and the Steelers are a part of that group that has had an infrastructure to share scouting and to do scouting for years and years and years. This plays into what I think some of their strengths are. But there are teams that are going to overdraft simply because they can't get a good look at these guys right now. They're not going to get the same kind of things. So there's going to be a lot of players who don't have any right being drafted high first round that are going to get drafted that way. And there's going to be players that are going to slide. And they probably won't be quarterbacks. But one of them, well, when Mac Jones goes in the second round, y'all can, come back and tell me and just, kiss my butt. That's what you
you
do.
you make a good point there. If somebody's going to say, oh, well, get somebody. It's always move up or move back and get more picks. And then, hey, you can get a guy in the middle rounds. And it's like, yeah, okay, let's see. How many in the middle rounds are actually worth a squat? Like, I think of guys like Matt Schaub that were okay. Derek Carr. Oh, don't get me started. I'm going to have to bring up his backup at some point during the show. Make sure I don't forget. But, Derek Carr. Okay, you got Russell Wilson. Again, the professor vehemently will tell you that smaller quarterbacks such as Wilson were not in vogue at that time, and that's why he landed in the third round. Now Kyler Murray, the top overall pick.
Yeah.
Maybe Kyler Murray a few years ago, if Russell Wilson doesn't pan out the way he was, maybe Kyler Murray isn't even a first-round pick. You don't know. Yeah. Now, he is a Heisman winner, but it's...
But he's an itty-bitty man. He's tiny.
Oh, my goodness. Was there somebody that did a meme with him with the giant head and the little body?
Right here.
Yeah,
Kyler
yeah.
Murray.
Somebody did that. Oh, my. And the players were sharing it and stuff. They were like, who did this? Who did this? And it's just like, that's rotten.
It's funny.
He's a heck of a player, though. I have nothing against Kyler Murray. But, I mean, it's just illustrating, a difference of philosophies and things of that nature. And as you said, no combine. As I always mentioned, combine time coming around. It was nice to have it officially because now you're going to have inflated 40-yard dashes and things like that. The pro days, it's like the guy's like 1, 2, 3, go. Click, starts to stopwatch. You know what I mean? Not all cases they're not doing this all manually. They got electronic gates and things of that nature.
And guys are there timing it themselves. If you're doing it right, you're not trusting whatever the heck the
No, you can't self-time yourself either. That's just having been there and done that with many of physical fitness tests and things over the years. No, it doesn't work that way. Sorry. You might surprise yourself when you get to the actual legitimate testing, but trying to do it yourself or having a friend hit whatever and, trying to figure all that out 40 yards away, and that's just one of them. I mean, who knows about bench and things like that? It's a very formal structure. There's a time period. You got to get in and out. So a guy's getting reps and a guy like slips with the bar and doesn't get it in and you only get like 2 reps and you look like a buffoon. They might might maybe get more mulligans when there's only like maybe a handful of guys that are working out for the pro scouts at a given location. I don't know. Sometimes I would assume this is being done by larger schools, but I imagine some of it's also still regionally based as well when they're going to do this. So, I mean, like, I don't know, throw somebody out there like Ohio State would probably have a full pro day, Alabama, LSU. But if you're talking about maybe there's a couple of prospects coming from
Tulsa.
Yeah, Tulsa. Well, I was thinking
Tulsa,
Oklahoma State or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe there's not as many guys, but they're still bigger. Yeah, Tulsa. Well, I was thinking like Conference USA, AAA, whatever, like Temple, Marshall, places like that, MAC schools, and Steelers love their MAC school. If they just do a MAC combine, they'll send the whole unit, the whole organization will be there.
Everybody's at the MAC combine today.
They do well. Hey, find a guy from Toledo and he ends up being like whatever, or Central Michigan, for example. If you could play in the NFL for the most part, I understand injuries sometimes necessitate, throwing a Duck Hodges out there or something, but there's opportunity. Talking about a guy who made his own luck. He wasn't drafted. He was not even signed as a college free agent. He came into rookie camp as an invite, impressed, and then got on, and then impressed in camp. And they moved on and shipped off Josh Dobbs and brought him back after 2 weeks. And then he ends up, Ben gets hurt. Then Mason gets knocked out, and he's playing in the NFL. And he's coming from FCS Samford. Not Stanford, Samford. Samford, Alabama, I think, somewhere.
Come and play, Elizabeth.
He did not.
Come
Yeah, and it's funny. It's real weird because that's who Youngstown State played in the first or second round. I don't know, 3-4 years ago now. They actually made it all the way into the title game that year. They had to play 5 in the tournament. They had to play 5 games. I mean, that's just crazy to extend a college season that long. But, yeah, they played Devlin Duck Hodges, and he didn't like the cold weather in Youngstown, and then he ends up in Pittsburgh anyway, and now he's in L.A., so all the best to him. But, yeah, if you could play, they could find you. We're talking about – I don't think the Steelers – we're talking about need and want. You make a very good point about best player available. I don't think they want a quarterback at this point. I think they hedge their bets. So you're talking about middle round guys, and they get Mason Rudolph, and that's a middle round pick. There's a guy a lot of people were mocking to the Steelers in these silly mock drafts first round, and I was doing the same thing. I was wagging my finger, Brian. I said, no way, And the same thing with Lamar Jackson for that matter. I'm like, they have other needs, and specifically maybe other wants. And you said it too. Ravens would have had to blow up the whole way they do business. And they did. And, kudos to them for doing so, but they had to do things completely different. So it's like Mason Rudolph, there's your middle round value. Somebody you could develop. This is what you're talking about as you're talking, out your posterior maybe. Oh, no, but not that guy. Not that guy. Or you get to see him play just a little bit. You don't get to see him play a lot of bit. You still really don't know the full story there. I know you don't. You have a lower opinion of him than I do. I think he's still a serviceable player in the NFL.
Well,
I think everybody here.
You know what?
Everybody
we need
wants
to iron this out.
Everybody wants
to iron this out.
Everybody wants Ben Roethlisberger version 2.0. There will not be. There's not another Michael Jordan, anything like that when it comes to sports. That's what you got. The way you got it. There's not another Peyton Manning. It's just going to be whatever the next guy is, and they're going to do their own thing.
The only difference is I think you think. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think you think Mason can get you through a season. I think Mason can be your backup. That's the difference.
I think both are fair. I do think.
I don't think he's terrible. I don't want him off the team. I just don't want him as my starter. That's all.
I would like to see what he could do with a full complement, to be honest, and without getting rocked with a knockout and having Myles Garrett chase him around like wielding his own helmet like a mace. David versus Goliath there. Well, maybe not so much. He's taller. I think he's skinnier. Probably about. Yeah, he's not giving up too much. Maybe 2-3 inches in height. But anyway, Myles Garrett's a freak. He's just a freak of nature, man. But that's where you're at. Not that guy. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with the Jalen Hurts argument, the Jordan Love argument last year, and you go back however many other guys that don't even end up getting on the field, or they get drafted much later than where somebody's valuing them at, et cetera, et cetera. Then you got the opposite here. Move up and get this guy in the first round, do this. We mentioned Josh Rosen, for example. But let's talk about, and even Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. He may not be with the Jets much longer, maybe not even through the beginning of this business year in the NFL. They might ship him off for some picks or something, depending on what they do. Deshaun Watson apparently handpicked the Jets as one of the 3 landing spots. He'd be that's acceptable for him. I think Carolina was one, and I'm trying to remember who the other one was. And so Darnold, he becomes available, and it's like, I got to go get that guy. You can mold this first round pick, a Carson Wentz or somebody like that. Pick him back up off the trash heap. Who else am I missing? Jameis Winston, who the Saints and Sean Payton, who's been around for a long time as a coach, he has a ring. They played Taysom Hill over Jameis Winston. Bruce Arians moved on from Jameis Winston and went and got Tom Brady, who's older than you, Brian. And, I mean,
he's not, by the
so,
way,
it doesn't necessarily, it's not going to work out. And you look at what other teams, people are going to say Ryan Tannehill, not known for throwing more than 25 passes in a game. That's all on Derrick Henry. But that's why we need Najee Harris. No, we don't know that Najee Harris is going to be a bowling ball and run through everyone, and still Derrick Henry was a second-round pick. You know what I mean? We don't know that he's going to replicate the same type of play from college to the pros. He could. Is that worth the risk at pick 24? Not for the Steelers, I don't think. So bouncing around here with these ideas, who's my other guy? Marcus Mariota. There's another guy. Somebody said trade some picks over to get Marcus Mariota from the Raiders. What if we gave up a 3rd round and a 5th round or something like this? And it's like, okay, Is everyone missing that Dwayne Haskins was a first-round pick and he's on the roster right now? This is exactly what you're advocating for, but you're not willing to give this guy a chance. Like, what the heck?
I get it. There's this. See, here's the thing. This is what I believe the thing is. There's this fascination now with we have to do what everybody else does. All right. Everybody else has switched over. We got these mobile quarterbacks, these running quarterbacks. They all do these things differently. That's what we got to have. And Dwayne Haskins isn't that guy. He's not.
It's a pocket passer.
He wasn't at Ohio State. He's a pocket passer. Guess what? That's what the Steelers are designed to be too. So, okay, if you want this mobile Marcus Mariota quarterback, think of how he worked. How well did he work out in Tennessee? He ain't there anymore. Didn't work out that great. How many Super Bowls, how many playoff games, period, how did they get to or win with Marcus Mariota? Because remember, Tennessee is a team that's built very much like the Steelers are built, okay? And it's, they've got, the difference right now is they've got a tremendous running game and we don't, okay? But it's a team built on defense and old-fashioned kind of pocket passing, control the football, that kind of stuff. Steelers, that's the way the Steelers are. So you want to say, okay, trade for Marcus Mariota. Why? It doesn't fit. Doesn't fit. And if you're going to go that direction and you're going to start all over again, now you got to think about it in the draft. I'm going to rebuild my offensive line to handle an offensive line that now can handle this mobile type quarterback so that I have the right pieces there to support that guy. Then I got to get the quarterback. Then I got to think about, okay, what's my running style going to be with this kind of a quarterback? Who are my receivers going to be? That's not the way they're built right now. So you're talking about overhauling the entire thing to trade for a backup quarterback off some other team?
I mean, yeah, Henry has been a man amongst boys. He had 3 200-yard games, 2 of those against the Texans and another one against the Jaguars, right within their own division. And even making the argument of the first-round pick quarterbacks, Brian, you go from Mariota to picking up Tannehill, backing up Mariota, and then he gets an opportunity, and he happens to be a better game manager, I think, than Mariota. But Tannehill didn't have like all this tremendous amount of success with the Dolphins as a bipolar of a team as you can get when it comes to split personalities. It was Adam Gase there again, but other guys in and out through the door. And I know Tannehill got hurt the one season too, where they actually did make the postseason, played the Steelers, and the Steelers just smacked them in the mouth right there because they finally had the killer bees on the field. They finally had Bell for the first time in a playoff game. So that's kind of the thing. It's like you pick another, maybe change of scenery could help, but we'll see. We don't know really where Tannehill's at even now. And yeah, Henry ran for 2,000 yards. Most of the losses on here are games, like against the Steelers where he didn't, or even the Cleveland Browns, where he didn't run for even 100 yards. So they shut that down, and it shows you maybe Tannehill isn't all that either. So just looking at what he did, 65.5% completion percentage, pretty good at protecting the ball. 33 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, pretty good this year. Only 3,819 yards passing in 16 games. So that shows you on 481 attempts, shows you they do not throw the rock all that often. So do you get a guy like that? And you got to hope the Steelers, who had been pass happy, now have to go to a running game. That's why you need the running back in the first. No, you need the offensive line. That's what Tennessee figured out too, in order to get those guys, get Henry and those guys going there. I was trying to see how many games. 3 games. Saw
how effective he was when Taylor Lewan went out.
Yeah, right? Well, that's exactly it.
There you go.
That's exactly it. And in fact, I was trying to pull up. Of course, this thing isn't going to work the way I want it to. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, over half the season where Tannehill didn't attempt at least 30 passes. 2 other games, you bump them up to 13. That's 30 or fewer. There's only 5 games, 31 for another one. So now 4 games. 37, 41, 43, and 45, where they relied on him passing, and that was a 2-2 record there. So when you rely, how strong of a passing game or somebody, it's not like they're going to get Tannehill. It's just the point of, could Mariota be better than that? Oh man, that's very doubtful. Could Sam Darnold be better than that? I don't know. That's kind of the point I'm making versus, that mid-round value pick that you develop which is Mason Rudolph, or that first-round pick you move up for, can't miss generational talent type thing or whatever, and you end up with Dwayne Haskins. And even before, they end up with Paxton Lynch, and he can't crack, and I understand he comes in, he doesn't come in under ideal situations where he has camp, but he was there last year and didn't win a position. They brought Josh Dobbs back.
Yeah, there's no look, there's a reason that he's not in the league.
Exactly.
You could talk about Paxton Lynch all you want. He's a first-round draft pick. Then just live with the first-round draft pick that's on a futures contract right now in Dwayne Haskins. First-round draft pick, okay? Fine. What's the difference? One's still in the league, one's not. Do I think Dwayne Haskins has more potential than Paxton Lynch? Yeah, actually I do. Do I think that he was in a bad situation in Washington? Yeah, I do. Do I think that he's a little immature and probably needs a lot of development? Yeah, I do. So, okay, but I think that's fine. There's your developmental quarterback. People got to remember, Ben's won 67% of his games. 67% of his games. That's more than a huge number. You're talking about, that's better than Drew Brees. It's better than a whole bunch of people. I was trying to look it up, the list, because it's too hard to find. But I couldn't, so I didn't.
Well, if you find it, bring it back. I got a couple of lists to go through here myself. But I guess my main question for you is should anybody be that worried about the quarterback depth chart heading into 2021 with Ben, Mason, and Dwayne? I'm not sweating that at all. Now, beyond that, okay, the future, this and that, man.
That's the point.
It's the not for long league for a reason.
Yeah.
You can't keep thinking ahead of 2022. Again, Aaron Rodgers unceremoniously fell, and it was a good spot where the Packers could be patient while they still had Brett Favre. That is not your everyday occurrence. Peyton Manning had neck surgery, and they decided to not bring him back, and they had an awful 2-win season, maybe 1 win. I think it was 2-14, and got Andrew Luck with their top pick. And then he still left, and again, disarray there with however many guys that they're trying to fit in and find. And the Broncos still haven't found their guy after Peyton went there either, so it just doesn't work that way.
Throw Brady out of the mix, because that's just weird and freaky, and I don't, some weird voodoo occurred with Tom Brady.
Michigan.
Yeah, and that. Peyton Manning. How many Super Bowls Peyton Manning win? 2.
Yeah,
Denver,
Bronco one
Denver
apiece.
And the Colts.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2.
I always think about the Colts and the choking.
And Ben won 2. How many Super Bowls Drew Brees win? 1. Ben's got 2. How many Super Bowls did Mr. Overrated Aaron Rodgers win? 1. Ben's got 2.
Eli Manning though is the GOAT.
Eli Manning's
just because
got 2.
He's beaten Tom Brady.
Yeah, he beat Tom Brady. Look,
twice.
Hey, the hell, it's all good. Eli's. I'm going to be in love with Eli because of that. So there you go.
Hall of Famer just for that reason.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers. How many Super Bowls Phillip Rivers win? None. Big fat hairy 0. A big donut hole. And people, Phillip. Yeah, take your hitching your get along and your weird side ass arm throw and get the hell out of my face.
and your 34 children.
And your 34 kids. Yeah, that's fine. Hey man, if you keep getting busy like that, go for it. I don't care.
Yeah, by all means.
But look, Ben has had a great career. Do I think the Steelers owe him a last season? No, but basically, why not try and get another season and another chance? He's got the right mentality. He's got the tool set that is better than some of those other quarterbacks that we just mentioned in their final seasons to get you there. Doesn't mean he will, but with the right surroundings. And yes, look, we are not saying, by the way, I don't believe you're saying it, I don't believe I'm saying it, that they don't have to improve their running game. They absolutely do. You cannot have Ben Roethlisberger throw the balls 50 times a game. No, that's not a winning, successful formula. You need to improve the running game. But the way you improve the running game is not by drafting Najee Harris or Travis Etienne at 24 if you don't have the offensive line to open the holes.
And we're getting to that. That was actually going to be, we were going to talk offensive line, past, present, and maybe future with our original topic for today. So we're not going to get too in-depth on that because I'm going to shoot my shot on someone I think they should maybe take a look at as a value free agent there. But I'm not going to do that today.
Okay.
There's my version of the clickbait. You're going to have to come back and tune in next time. Same bat channel, maybe not the same bat time. We don't know. I'm going to bring this out. I got just because it's up on my screen too. It's a little off topic, but Aditi backpedaling, Aditi backpedaling, of course, and some people very upset about that. And it's like, this is why you don't jump the gun on some of the rumors and the people that put it out there. The national media people, they could do whatever they want. They flip-flop worse than some of the politicians that are out there. So she asked something about, what was it, Andrew Brandt tweets, questions regarding Roethlisberger wanting to help Steelers with his contract, doing a cap restructure. Come on, Andrew. Can't do it. Pushing out the problem when it is already a big problem is not the answer. What is simple? Pay cut. Bigger one, the better for the team. Aditi says, what is reasonable? His current salary of $19 million is basically a bargain in QB land. No. Also should be penalized for the team constantly being in this cap hell? ? And David Todd, nail head. Brother, right here. Again, the biggest annual misnomer about the Steelers is that they are constantly in, quote, cap hell. If you're doing it right, this sounds like he stole this from Zach. If you're doing it right, you're up against it every year. This year is unique because of cap decline due to the pandemic, but the Steelers spend to the limit, have largely kept their own players, and remain competitive, and they find the value-free agents where necessary. They have freed up some space already with Marquise Pouncey retiring. They have freed up space with Vance McDonald retiring. I still speculate that there could be someone released, not Steven Nelson, not the younger of the two good corners, but they may go to Joe Hayden and ask for something too with his high salary.
There's
in order
still
to maybe,
plenty of restructuring that can occur.
Stephon Tuitt, always something there. The defensive ends, well, Cam already has too. So
Cam did his. You got Steven Nelson who could get restructured. You got Tuitt who could get restructured. I mean, they're talking about places they can get it.
Yeah, people are talking about everything's got to be cut release too. Vince Williams is another guy. Vince Williams' salary isn't really all that high, folks.
No.
Now you're looking for pocket change for dumb reasons. What, to sign Ryan Fitzpatrick? Is that who you want to be your quarterback? I got the list. I got a bunch of stuff here, but David Todd hits the nail on the head. Mark Madden's also another guy that's completely upset about this. He says,
why do you bring his name up?
Oh, I had to, because
I just want to fight him, and
he just thinks that the whole thing with Ben coming back is stupid. But if he ran this team, they'd be operating like the Pittsburgh Pirates, not the Steelers. They would have nobody. They would ship everyone off and still be, look at these teams. Like, who has draft picks to build some things around too, or the money? The way the Rams have been, that is not the way I think you want to keep. You want to talk about floating it down the river there. And the same thing with the Saints. Holy crap. What were they, like $100 million in the cap hell or something? They had an ungodly big number. I don't think it was that high, but that was the highest in the NFL. But I have some of the free agents here, or maybe would-be free agents, guys that are scheduled to maybe hit free agency before there's any tags or any talk that end up happening here. I don't know if there's actual rankings. Ranks are very loose. This was Mike Clay, at Mike Clay NFL. Don't get too caught up in that. So he says, Dak Prescott, can't afford him. Mitch Trubisky, Cam Newton. He didn't work out so well with the greatest coach of all time, Bill Belichick, last year. Okay, he didn't have necessarily a cast around him, but I've never been on the Cam in Pittsburgh bandwagon, and last year just further proved it. I think he still has some left in the tank to maybe help a team, but guy's never been the most accurate quarterback, nor has Jameis Winston, who's on this list. Ryan Fitzpatrick. You never know. Do you get Fitzmagic for 3 games and then the rest of it he turns into a pumpkin? I mean, he did pretty well with the Dolphins, and like I said, he's done the world tour in that division. Buffalo, the Dolphins, the Jets. You know what?
We don't need to be a notch in his bedpost.
No. He's getting around like Josh McCown, Jacoby Brissett.
No.
Mobile quarterback. They're a mobile quarterback, man.
Like, I wouldn't hate it, but again, I don't see that. Has Jacoby Brissett proved that he can be a starter full time in this league?
If he did, he wouldn't be available.
And at this point, yeah, how many years has he been in the league now? I mean, you're talking about paying a guy who's already not succeeded for 4 or 5 years. Would I hate it? Not necessarily as a guy that had depth and competition, but not for what you're going to have to pay him. No, it's out. Forget it. No.
I mean, and you talk about pay. Quarterback pay is high. We get into some of the yearly salaries. I didn't even go through this whole list yet, but I'm going to start pulling up some salaries here as well. Overthecap.com. I don't want full contracts. Let's just take a look at 2021. I hate it. They did it by okay, cash spent is probably more accurate than cap number because cash spent for Ben, $19 million. Matt Ryan, 23. Aaron Rodgers, 22. Russell Wilson, 19, 21. For Kirk Cousins, 24.5 for Ryan Tannehill. 25 for Tom Brady, 28 for Jared Goff. Jimmy G, 25.5. Ditto for Carson Wentz or in whereabouts. Patrick Mahomes, 22.8. Alex Smith is at 19. Teddy Bridgewater, 18. Derek Carr is floating at 19.6. Stafford at 20. I'm trying to get in here for some of the more Taysom Hill, 12. Yikes. They got Deshaun on here for 10, but I'm sure he's got some more that's tied into that. Drew Brees just took the pay cut to bring his down to $1 million with an impending retirement. Baker Mayfield's still at 5. Marcus Mariota is a backup listed at 10. That's what you're looking at, probably at least 10 versus. I'd rather draft the guy, Brian.
Absolutely.
Maybe even Mac Jones.
Comparatively. No, not Doughboy. I don't want Doughboy anywhere near this team.
Yeah, Case Keenum, $6 million. I'm trying to get guys that aren't on rookie deals here. Nick Foles, $8 million. Chase Daniels still. This guy, he has got dirt on somebody. 4.5. You got 2.5 to Jeff Driscoll still. Chad Henne, the more reasonable, almost probably for as long as Henne's been around. 1.2 is probably the vet min for him because you got guys like Jalen Hurts that are scheduled to make maybe just as much. But I think that kind of proves the point here that most of the rest of the guys on this list are on pretty much Deshaun Kaiser. It's like I just still want to hang around and be in the league. Trevor Siemian, they're under $1 million or something like that, and those aren't definitely names that I'm looking at to lean upon being my signal caller. So, no. Yeah, Chase Daniel, man. Jeez, oh, man. How much money is this guy? Earnings by team. Originally with Washington, the Saints, he got $3 million. He got $10 million 3 years from the Chiefs. 1 year, $12 million from the Eagles. 2 years, $10 million from the Bears. And then $3.5 million with the Lions here. Wow. I mean, he is just... Where's he at? 30, 40-some million. I mean, that's incredible to me. For if I looked and saw how much he actually has played or how many passes he has thrown in the National Football League, I am going to do it just because this was somebody that was always on the radar. For the most part in his career, he has appeared in 69 games. Nice. And has attempted 261 passes in his career. 1,694 yards, 8 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, and has made over $40 million in 10, 11 years in the NFL. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable.
Good work if you can get it.
Yeah, good work if you can get it. Back to my free agents list. Well, Jacoby Brissett. I had him up originally. Jacoby Brissett with Indianapolis. Has a completion percentage over 4 years of 59.5, 6,059 yards, 31 TDs to 13 interceptions. And let me see if I can find his rushing stats just to kind of prove a point here, too. He's ran for, in his career, well, with Indianapolis, 500 yards over those 4 years. That's 46 games, 30 starts. But again, here's a guy that struggles to complete 60% of his passes at a bare minimum. Doesn't seem to turn the ball over a whole lot. Maybe he was coached properly in New England. He had a year there or so. When was he originally brought into the league? 2016, yeah. So he got to play those couple games. Brady was suspended, the Deflategate thing. Jimmy G was hurt or whatever, and they had to lean on him, and they had the team around them to continue to keep that ship afloat. Not much different than Mike Tomlin doing it with, Byron Leftwich, Charlie Batch, Dennis Dixon, Landry Jones, Michael Vick, The list goes on, but Tomlin's such a bad coach. Why didn't he do more? He doesn't always have his quarterback. It doesn't have this guy all the time. You got to hope he at least stays healthy, but I'd still rather have this guy over. I'm naming these guys: Tyrod Taylor, Andy Dalton, C.J. Beathard, Joe Flacco, Mike Glennon, Brandon Allen, Blake Bortles. Woo. Rest in peace. Blaine Gabbert. Here's another one. Brian Hoyer, Brett Hundley, RG3, AJ McCarron, Nate Sudfeld, Matt Barkley, and Colt McCoy. That's a graveyard shift to quarterbacks there. I don't know that gets away, and I don't know what the Bears decide to do. They probably stick with Mitch Trubisky, I would assume. So your headliners are probably like Jameis Winston and Cam Newton if they get free of who they're currently with. The rest of those guys are going to be floating around in backup quarterback purgatory there, and you're still going to probably be paying them $6 to $10 million, somewhere at least within that per however many year deal, 1 year deal, 2 year deal, $24 million. Oh goodness, man, there's better ways of spending that money, and I'd rather much spend it with Rudolph and Haskins. You got an angry face, Brian.
I'm going to flip this. Because you listed those things, and I had to shoot myself in the head.
Please don't do that. We like you more than that.
I'm like, I can't listen to all these quarterbacks that nobody wants and nobody should want, knowing somebody out there's going to go, yeah, that's the guy. That's who we should sign. And I'm like,
Mariota.
Okay, yeah,
make a trade. Chucky will give him up for Cracker Jacks.
Yeah, sure.
Repack.
Flip it this way. When does Ben seem to be at his best, right? When everything is against him, when people are telling him he's going to stink, when it's the most difficult path. Just remember the path to the Super Bowl with Bettis. It can't possibly be done. That's when Ben sometimes seems to rise because he likes the drama of it, right? Guess who's got the most difficult schedule in the NFL next season?
On paper so far. It
on paper so far.
It don't play out that way all
but
the time.
Still, if you look at it right now,
yeah,
the Pittsburgh Steelers have the most difficult schedule in the league right now. If that stays the same, even if it doesn't, who do you want to guide you through that? Ben, a guy who's seen it, done it, knows what to do, or somebody else? No, I want Ben.
You think Ben's washed? Come on, the guys that dropped all these passes, they led the league. Like they had at least how many more drop passes to the next team? I'm sure if we could look, we could find that somewhere. It's at least a dozen. It was at least a dozen, and hopefully they clean that
crazy.
up. That doesn't help.
They clean that up, all of a sudden it's going to be a much better situation.
Even with a lack of running game, catch the friggin' ball, and then it's not so much the problem.
I mean, look, we've kind of beat Aditi up a little bit. And deservedly so, because she said the same thing. She said, and you and I talked about this in the back rooms, she did everything to cover her butt on this so she could say, yeah, I got it right. He's going to leave. He's not going to leave. Nobody knows what he's going to do. Those are really the only three options that are out there, right?
I'm more beating up the people who took her words and were like, we got to hurry up, get this up on our websites and shoot it out all over social media to get these clicks and views. And then they're mad when someone like you or I or someone else, our listeners, call them out for the crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
And they can't handle the heat. They
can't
don't go in the kitchen.
Can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth. All right. Anyway, this is it. I'll give her credit for tweeting this out. Not that it's a difficult thing to research or anything. I kind of like Aditi, but it might just be because I think she's cute. Anyway, when the Steelers rush for 100 yards or more, Roethlisberger is 106 and 20 and 1. 106 and 20 and 1. When they don't, he's got a losing record, 50 and 54. Since 2018, he's 12-0 and 1 when they give him 100 rushing yards. 12-0 and 1. Yes, they need to fix the running game. There is no question about that. And we will talk about what they have to do to fix the running game. I'm just telling you, drafting Travis Etienne, Najee Harris, whoever you think is going to be there at 24 ain't fixing the running game.
No,
sorry, guys.
Yeah, I really don't feel it. And I've got some names that we're eventually going to bring up, even some free agents, even former Steelers, believe it or not, that could circle back to this team. But I want to kind of put a bow. I think we're kind of up against it. I lose track of time.
You and me, now because of this, here we'll talk. Here, just so everybody knows, Guy went in today. You know, I had wrist surgery, right? You know that. I don't know if I've told anybody else. I had wrist surgery. They cut a whole bunch of crud out of my wrist or did this thing, whatever. Some weird mojo they did. And it swole up. So the guy today takes his needle. It's like this long and a big syringe, and he drains all this stuff out of my wrist, right? Very exciting. It's not something I recommend to have anybody ever do. The good news is it was all clear. So, a little bit of blood, but it's all clear, so it's not an infection. The bad news is it sucked. But now the flip side of that is and you see me, I'm waving the damn thing around. I'm already doing what I'm not supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to not use this wrist for the rest of this week. So I'm not allowed to work. I'm not allowed to do what I normally do. Can't do anything. So what else? The point of this was we can be up against it all day. We could run a 5-hour show. I don't care.
We could, but then just producing that would probably take all night for it to save out and everything else. But no, my point was like with your wrist. There's people who think that Ben is completely washed and they're not paying attention to lack of running game, poor offensive line performance, and dropped passes. That's a very big figure, and we also think that he took a shot in that Dallas game and wasn't necessarily the same since, and I think that had a lot to do with some of the things that were going on, throwing motion, things of that nature, losing some players, but everybody's going to say, yeah, it's a bunch of excuses, a bunch of baloney, move on from this clown, and then, yeah, okay, let's move on from the clown, then we get to go to 2-14, 2-15 if they play 17 games, and maybe get the number 1 overall pick, and you got to hope that the next Trevor Lawrence or the next Joe Burrow is the next guy. Excuse me. Speaking of, let me get a swig right there. Dry throat, man. My apologies. Andrew Filipponi, our other favorite guy that's on Pittsburgh radio.
I can't because
AFC
AFC
quarterbacks better than Big Ben, and he lists them. Have you seen this, Brian? I'm going to name them for everyone. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson,
okay,
Baker Mayfield,
no,
Ryan Tannehill,
no,
Justin Herbert,
well, maybe
young, developing. What happens
maybe.
next year?
He could fall off a cliff. Maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so far, I can't say no. Josh Allen, he's really come into his own this past year.
I would say that right this second, Josh Allen's probably better.
Fair. Lamar Jackson, quarterback, creates plays. So okay, he's won an MVP. I'll pass. I'll let it pass.
I'll say
Baker Mayfield, MVP, absolutely not.
No, get out of here.
Tannehill,
no.
Herbert, maybe. Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, maybe.
You got to put him with a better team. Certainly not last year, running for his life. Derek Carr.
No. No.
Brian, my ear. It's speaking to my good ear. I'm not sure I got your answer there.
I was way back here.
Yeah, he's standing a little bit away from the microphone as he shouts out his opinion of Derek Carr. Patrick Mahomes?
Yes.
Okay. Quarterbacks with potential to be better. Trevor Lawrence hasn't even taken a snap yet.
How the hell do you know yet? I don't know.
Don't even know who he's going to play for. How do you know he's going to have potential to be better in 21 or the next 10 years going to be better career? I don't understand that. I don't understand this one. Joe Burrow.
Maybe. I like what I saw of Joe.
But this upcoming next year, they got a big
potential to be next year. That's what potential to be is next year.
I think that's what it's got to be. What are you going to say? If you're thinking Ben's only going to play one more year, then why would this be a list of guys you think is better than Ben for just one more year?
I don't think Joe's going to be better than Ben. I don't think either. Well, Tua, you never know. I don't know. I don't know how to.
We don't even know
Tua,
the Dolphins.
I don't watch enough Dolphins games to see what they're doing.
We don't even know. There's speculation the Dolphins could go and draft another quarterback where they're at.
Yeah, they could. You never know.
You really don't.
I don't know that Joe is going to be better than Ben next year unless the Bengals fix a whole hell of a lot of other problems. I don't know that Joe Burrow is going to get through next season if they don't fix their damn O-line. So,
hey, how many Super Bowl rings on that list, by the way, combined? Top of your head. Yes, just the one. Mahomes.
Yeah, one. Mahomes. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. So, and I get it. Ben's been playing, well, I don't know. Some of these guys, 3-4 years. He picked a bunch of young guys with the exception. Well, Derek Carr is still younger, but he's been around long enough for me to know that that's the couple of these are preposterous. You know what I mean? To just say that. I didn't even look to see if there were any others around the AFC that are worth even mentioning. Let's see here. Who didn't he mention? Because obviously not Carson Wentz. Obviously not Sam Darnold. The Colts, Carson Wentz, maybe. Who's going to end up with the Jaguars? We don't know. Raiders, Chargers, Broncos, Drew Lock. Okay, they've gone. They've tried to do a couple of things there.
There's a stretch he didn't name Drew Lock. Oh, yeah.
Paxton Lynch and Drew Lock. But you know what? Who's the Washington football team going to lean on? You know what I mean? You're going to say Alex Smith's better? Dak Prescott?
Well, now
Daniel
Alex
Jones?
Smith's just coming out and saying, no, they don't want me here anyway. I screwed up their whole plan.
Whoever plays for the Saints, you got Tom Brady, maybe Teddy Bridgewater, Matt Ryan, I don't think's better. Aaron Rodgers, we mentioned Trubisky earlier, Kirk Cousins. Goff is now with the Lions. You can mention Matt Stafford with the Rams, Russell Wilson with the Seahawks, Kyler Murray, Jimmy Garoppolo. There aren't a whole heck of a lot of names I'd put ahead of Ben here. Maybe I said 3 or 4 at tops out of those 16 teams in the NFC either. So $19 million.
I think you could make the argument that Ben is out of the top 10 in NFL quarterbacks in the league. I don't think you can make the argument that he's out of the top 20 or maybe even out of the top 15.
No, definitely not out of the 15.
Yeah,
even
but
at this stage.
You could make the argument that he could be out of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. Top 10 quarterbacks don't always win Super Bowls. As long as, again, they fix the issues that they have, Ben is perfectly capable of getting them to the promised land.
I was trying to look up something else here. I was looking up who all was the quarterbacks. Of course, Ben was a playoff quarterback this year. Goff, Wilson, Brady, Taylor Heineke, Mina Burdicke, Drew Brees, Mitch Trubisky. Let's see, Josh Allen, Phillip Rivers, Lamar Jackson, Ryan Tannehill, Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. Okay. How many teams? 14. Those 14 teams that got in, right? Am I doing the math right? 7-7 now. So 14 teams that got in, Ben's got to be top 15 just based on that, I would think. Maybe you try and slide in your argument for Watson who didn't make the playoffs or somebody else. But, I mean, that's what I'm looking at. And again, if we go with Dan Graziano's assumption that they could convert this and they could save 14 and change of the 19, and you pay Ben without any pay cut, and you're paying Ben $5 million this year. Yeah, because otherwise that $19 million is just going to one of these other guys I mentioned, like a Jacoby Brissett, and I don't know that I would want to play him over. I'd rather roll with Rudolph or Haskins and see what you got. I'll be honest. But I would rather have Ben overall. You know what I mean? So I hope this was like insightful. I think we jumped around a little bit, but I think it paints enough of a picture that all of this hysteria over Ben not returning or whatever else, it's really unfounded, I believe. It's not about giving the guy any kind of due or anything or giving him a second shot or whatever. It's because he's been the guy. He leads like all your statistics. It didn't show any regression. Remember they said he couldn't throw downfield and then he was lobbing it all over the place still too? I wouldn't mind. Save his arm a little bit maybe. Get some running game going. I think we know what needs to be done to have this team competing again. Now, let me talk to you about the Ben Roethlisberger returning effect and attracting free agents or returning players.
Yeah.
Would you rather go to the Pittsburgh Steelers if Ben is there or not? You say Mason Rudolph's
I'd rather
or some
I'd
rookie,
rather go
just
with
a random
Ben.
rookie.
Yeah, I know. I'd rather go with Ben. If I'm a free agent, right? Yes, I know you're going to talk about JJ.
Well, not just JJ, also Juju.
Juju. If you're a free agent, who do you want to play with, right? You want a team that you do think has got a chance. Ben does give them a chance, regardless of what some of the other folks out there think. And I just sent you this quote, and it has nothing to do with what we're just talking about. You can read it at your leisure, and we can poo-poo it in the back rooms. I don't know that we want to do it now, but we might because it's annoying.
We might. I have another tweet here as well as Ian Whetstone, who's over the cap guy, I believe. He's definitely an expert on these things, more so than probably both of us combined. He mentions the Steelers have never used void years. I don't expect them to start now. They'll probably accomplish the same effect by just adding real years, which is my assumption. Yeah, they don't do. I don't know. Stafford had some void years. There's some other guys with void years that are built into their contracts like that, but that's not really the Steelers' style, and they'll understand that he probably won't play him. It was like when they extended Troy, for example, or maybe even Hines Ward may have been in that. No, Hines became a free agent. I remember he sniffed around a little bit, but geez, he was pretty up there in age. Was he like 35 years old or something by the time he finally maybe? I know he had been kind of relegated to a background role with the Young Money crew or whatever you want to call them that were there with Wallace and AB and Sanders and that. But yeah, anyways, some of the guys like Troy, for example, it's understood with some of the bigger names. And in order to continue to have them still there for this upcoming season, that's what they've had to do. So it won't necessarily be void years, so to speak, but it'll be something like that. I still think, 2-year extension, 3-year extension, something gets it done so they could distribute this money the way they need to.
Yeah, look, the cap probably after this year and moving forward, once normalcy returns, the cap's going to go way up. And when it does, they're going to have ridiculous amounts of room, initially. They won't. By the time we get there, they won't. Because as you said, they pay up to the cap. They're going to pay up to the cap.
I read, where'd this come from? Article or a tweet? I'm not going to say who it's from.
Oh, the one that I just sent you?
Yeah. I know who it's from.
It's an article.
It's an article on one of these larger
wonderful sites. Yeah, corporate-owned sites.
Oh, my goodness. Steelers haven't invested, or they've invested fewer resources than any team in the league at the quarterback position over the past 15 years.
That's because they had a franchise quarterback, you idiot.
Fewer resources, seriously, like fewer than the Patriots? Are the Chiefs going to go out and draft a quarterback this year? Get your head out of your you-know-what. That is just the most preposterous thing. Everybody just wants the future. Why does everybody want to shove Ben out of town?
I feel dirty having read that article.
It is. I don't get the fans. I understand you're upset. The Steelers didn't win a Super Bowl again. They didn't get the 7th one. We've been patiently waiting since 6. And from 5 we were waiting, and from 4 we waited a very long time to get 5. I get it. I understand all of it. But geez, it doesn't mean you send the guy out take him back behind the shed and shoot him. You don't even want to send him out the pasture. You just want it completely severed for no good apparent reason. And it's always draft somebody else. And we talk about all of these names that come across this wire, all those names from 2011, 2012, whatever, to 2016 that aren't with their original teams because their original teams do not value. In fact, they did value. Jared Goff got a huge contract. Carson Wentz got a huge contract, and it still doesn't stop them from saying, sayonara, we don't think that you're the guy. And those are the top guys. We're not even talking about the ones where you want to go invest in a value developmental thing. This is really going to grind my gears, Brian, and I'm going to leave it at that so we don't go much longer.
This is the last sentence that really drives me crazy. They do not have a quality option in place if Ben is done. That's the theory here. Go through 32 NFL teams. Find me one. Just one. You find me one that has a quality option in place if they're franchise quarterback. And I'm talking franchise quarterback. Don't come at me with some, this guy who's a mediocre quarterback. No, a quality option that's going to replace a franchise quarterback in place if your franchise quarterback is done. And you can't even tell me Green Bay with Jordan Love, because who knows? Who knows?
No, you don't. You don't.
Who knows?
You don't. Those are, Jalen Hurts is going to jump in and immediately be the guy, or Nate
Sudfeld. What happens when they figure out Jalen Hurts?
They will.
They got a chance to see him a little bit this year. What happens when they figure him out? And now all of a sudden, okay, now I don't have Carson Wentz and I have Jalen Hurts, and he's not doing it for me either. What are the Eagles going to do? Cry.
What are the Browns going to? What would the Browns do with Garrett Gilbert? Is that the primary backup in Cleveland? The Bengals when Joe Burrow went down. What if Patrick Mahomes goes out? Chad Henne. You're gonna roll a whole 16 games of Chad Henne. They certainly are prepared. Nobody is prepared because there aren't 32 starting quarterbacks, let alone 32 backups.
Yeah. That's the most ridiculous argument.
Trace McSorley in Baltimore. I mean,
where does he live? I need to go to his house and smack him in the head.
The only team I would say that even had somewhere in I know exactly where. I'm not gonna. He's in Pennsylvania. He's in the state of Pennsylvania.
He's not far.
He's closer to you than he is to me. Believe it or not.
All right, I can go smack him.
He's up where all the forest.
I'm just telling you. If I can find you, I'm smacking you.
Yeah, he's almost headed into upstate New York there, so you could probably get there pretty quickly. Yeah, I mean, well, I think we'll put a bow on this, Brian, before I get even more heated. I mentioned a lot of these backups, like a Chase McDaniel, or, I mean, the Saints did well with Teddy Bridgewater, but then again, Teddy Bridgewater you didn't know was fully recovered or whatever, and then he landed a huge contract. And you see what happens whenever anybody goes down. Cam Newton went down in Carolina a few years ago, and Washington trying to figure out whoever they have on the roster between Haskins and Smith making his comeback and Heineke or whatever, and Dak Prescott, Andy Dalton coming in there. I mean, no team is the same. Aaron Rodgers goes down. Okay, yeah, they have Love now. What happened? Mike McCarthy lost his job because they couldn't get it done with guys like what? Deshaun Kaiser, Garrett Hundley, or Brett Hundley, Garrett Hundley. Brett Hundley. Come on, guys. I mean, very few and far between. Maybe a handful of the backup quarterbacks. You don't know that Tua is a starting quarterback yet, so would Ryan Fitzpatrick have qualified in this conversation last year? Anybody with the Jets, Joe Flacco, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback in there with Sam Darnold, and the team is just such a dumpster fire. It's like we've seen the Steelers. I understand they finished 8-8 2019 without Ben, between Rudolph and Hodges. They had that collapse at the end of the season. Before that, everybody was talking about Tomlin Coach of the Year type stuff for how they had pulled it off without Ben, and they did it before. I mentioned Mike Vick, I mentioned Leftwich, I mentioned Batch. They've done it many a times and kept this team competitive and in postseason form or playoff contenders or something of that nature. There's disappointments along the way. There is if you're part of any other franchise. I just think it's preposterous the way, like I said, just take the guy out back of the shed and shoot him. That's what they want to do. And you want to have the next guy immediately already like in line. And I'm not going to say Ben's done after 2021. He could be. Do we know that for certain?
I'm going to say probably.
I mean, there's a gut feeling there.
I'd lean towards the more likely he's done after this year than anything else. But you never know. What if he has a resurgence? Who knows?
But to say he didn't invest. Oh, by the way, the guy that we're passively aggressively attacking without mentioning his name was big on a guy they did invest in, Josh Dobbs. And I will leave you with that.
There you go.
Like, comment, and subscribe. I guess the comment of the day, if you happen to be on the YouTubes, is maybe we'll read a few of these. How do you feel about Ben Roethlisberger coming back, and do you feel comfortable with the three potential guys on the depth chart at the quarterback position heading into the 2021 season as it is right now? Because if you go draft a guy, you're going to have to get rid of one of them, Ben, Mason, or Haskins. I don't feel as comfortable as doing that as I would to maybe when you start looking ahead later. So, Brian, thanks for joining me once again, my friend. We got long-winded.
Always a pleasure. Yeah, it's always a pleasure. You know, like I said, we go on all day, but, you know, one of these times we'll have to do a live show and then just let people harass us while we're on and see how long it goes.
Oh, geez. That could be dangerous.
It could be, but it might be fun. Who knows?
Danger is my middle name. Actually, my middle initial is D, but it's not Danger. It's not my middle name.
Mine is E.
I know. I've never asked you what the E is for, but I'm going to start. Brian E. Roach and Joseph D. Kuzma pretty much signing off here for all you folks. So, Again, leave us your comments. You could also text them. I forget the number. It's on the website at steelcityunderground.com. I think most people forget we're more than just a podcast. We put some stuff up there. Try and keep at least one new piece of content that isn't necessarily the most clickbaitish thing. Sometimes we're looking back at things in the season, some fun things, some fan things, and then sometimes some analysis, which is kind of thin at this point. I got a few research projects in the hopper, and those are going to be fun when we get to those, because then I'll repeat them here on the air, because I got a lot of things to say, It'll be Festivus in July.
There you go.
When we get there.
Got a lot of problems with you people.
Yes, and I'm going to let you know about it. It's 203-900-4SCU, and that actually pops up here at the end as you hear the music. If you're watching on YouTube, everyone else that's listening, just rewind it and make note of that, and we get an extra minute or so of you listening to this toward our stats tracking for this show. My name is Joseph D. His name is Brian E. And until next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.